Professor Dinesh Rangappa has significantly contributed in developing novel process for bulk production of nanomaterials, engineering nanomaterials for energy storage, sensor and photovoltaic, photocatalytic, photoluminescent, inorganic nanopigments, wastewater treatment, and biomedical applications. He has published more than 120 papers in national and international journals, 8 book chapters, and 2 patents granted. He has been recognized with several national and international awards for his outstanding contribution to the field of science and technology. He has earned nearly 3,000 citations with 46 I-10 index and 23 H index. Professor Dinesh Rangappa has been awarded Professor Satish Dhawan State Award for Young Engineers 2014 on his outstanding performance in field of engineering science from Government of Karnataka. Pawan Nagpal Memorial Award in 2015 by Indian Ceramic Society Karnataka Chapter Bangalore. So I present you all Professor Dinesh Rangappa. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Pawan Rangdal. Good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure to talk to you all. I want to confirm whether you can see full screen.
Yes, sir.
Full screen you can see?
Yeah. Yes,
okay.
sir.
Okay. So I would like to thank PDA College and also Indian Ceramic Society Karnataka chapter for giving me this opportunity to share my research experience in the battery materials at this FDP program. So today I just wanted to share my research experience as well as also some developments in the country, what battery area people are doing and how battery research and commercialization and electric vehicle, lithium ion battery for electric vehicles are taking up shape. So I focus mainly, first part I will just give brief introduction, demand and what are the developments all over the world and importance of battery materials, especially electrode materials, because it is exclusive FDP on role of materials in electric vehicles, where many eminent speakers from abroad and also from country have shared their knowledge in the area. So I'm not sure because I was supposed to be deliver this lecture on second day, first or second day, but due to some other coincident, some pre-committed urgent meetings, I was requested Pawan to place me on last day. So some only one or two talks I could attend. So I am completely not aware what previous speaker have covered, though I have know some of them my good friends. So based on that, I can guess what they have already covered, and remaining part I am trying to cover. And mainly, I understand that detailed synthesis and characterization of electrode materials, different electrode materials might not be covered in this. So I'll just focus my second part of the work on our own work, where we have developed a supercritical fluid process for developing a various nanostructured materials, especially electrode materials, cathode and anode materials. So for this, I think I have made this brief outline where I will be first presenting about battery and battery vehicles and their importance, then supercritical fluid process and designing nanostructured materials. As a case study, I will be presenting different materials. I have skipped introduction about my university in the interest of time. So we all know that So we all know that the average global primary power consumption is about 14 terawatt, which was estimated in 2008. Presently, it is about 20 terawatt, and we are expecting by 2030 40, it will reach about 25 to 30 terawatt. And in the energy supply what we are getting, mostly we are getting more than 80% of today's energy from carbon dioxide emitting fossil fuels and oil, coal, and natural gases. So there is a huge demand for renewable energy resources due to the environmental concern and global warming. And because of that, people have focused more interest on renewable energy. Presently, we can see about 13% of energy is produced by renewable energy. So this renewable energy So we have several renewable energy resources. Mostly the available renewable energy sources are not continuous, or they are intermittent in nature. Such as a solar cell, we will get only daytime, and in sunlight we can produce solar energy into electricity. And wind also, depending on the wind speed, we can produce. And this water, hydroelectric, and tidal, all other things, they don't produce energy continuously. So this means we need electrochemical energy storage devices or energy storage devices to store the energy before we connect them to grid. So it is the future electrochemical energy generation, transmission, and distribution, and end users a future smart grid concept, where a bulk energy generation from different renewable energy sources and thermal power plants, and all together they will be connected to a distribution system, and with a smart grid we can manage the through two-way digital communication, we can manage loads between the generation and distribution. So this is what smart concept we are looking for the future energy management. So whatever we go for as a renewable energy resources, we still have to depend on electrical energy storage devices because of the this intermittent energy type. So presently, lithium-ion battery are powering most of the portable electronic systems, and currently already lithium-ion battery has already emerged as a champion technology for electric vehicles and hybrid electric vehicles. And these days there is a huge development progress in lithium-ion battery technology for electric vehicles. And so once again, it is a major technology for power supply and power storage. So when we think about the battery applications, there are different requirements depending on the type of the battery and type of the materials. We can see here there are there are applications such as consumer electronics, which requires high power and low energy. That means if you use a driller or some other equipment for electric equipment, then you need a more power but less energy, because for drilling and other work requires this high power in a short time. Applications such as mic and other things, they require high energy but low power, because they are low power devices. So similarly, if you consider electric vehicles, we need to trade off between both okay. So we need to trade off between energy and power for automotive applications. So for example, for automotive application, in order to run for long range, we need more high energy, and in order to run vehicle at speed, then we need a high power also. So for this reason, I think lithium-ion battery improvement in the lithium-ion battery technology and management system will provide the solution for this kind of applications. So in this regard, I think many people or many countries have made their battery strategies. And for example, in India, just from last 5 years, we have got a very good and clear mandate for our battery programs by Government of India, Union Government of India. And just 4 days before, Union Cabinet on Wednesday approved the proposal of Department of Heavy Industries for implementation of production of linked incentives scheme for national program of advanced chemistry cell battery storage for achieving the manufacturing capacity of 50 gigawatt for this advanced chemistry cell and 5 gigawatt for Nishe ACC with an outlay of 18,000 crores. And similarly, in the last year, through this ACC government plan about $2.46 billion for our national program on advanced chemistry cells for battery storage. And also India plans 4.6 billion incentives for battery makers in electric vehicle to push. Especially this was proposed route by Niti Aayog in 2018, and they expect as much as 40 billions by 2030 if electric vehicles were widely adopted by avoiding the oil import. So in India, there are several startup companies emerged recently, and they are all focusing on battery technology. Especially most of them are startup companies. So these are some of the list of startup companies in India, which started from 2013 till 2018-19, and still some more are coming. So that means a lot of startup activities are focusing towards lithium-ion battery management or production or cell manufacturing and other areas. For example, here you can see Ion Energy, which was founded in 2016. They mainly focus on battery intelligence system and for battery management system development. And Log 9 Materials, which was founded in 2014, based in Bangalore. They are focusing with nanotechnology, nanomaterials, and material engineering for fuel cells and also battery program. This company also planning graphene-based anode materials for lithium-ion battery applications. Greentech, founded in 2013, based in Chennai, they are developing lithium-ion battery manufacturing, cell-to-pack technology. And similarly, some more startup companies, Lohum Cleantech, founded in 2018, and they are also working on battery life cycle solution and manufacturing recycling. And Gegadyne Energy, which founded in 2015, based in Mumbai, they are also working with nanotechnology and materials engineering for lithium-ion non-lithium-ion battery technology. And Gyprox Cleantech, founded in 2016, based in Delhi, they are working on battery life cycle solution, refabrication and recycling of lithium-ion batteries. And Inverted, also founded in 2017, based in New Delhi, they are working on energy storage technology, lithium-ion battery manufacturing, and so on. So these are the some of the list of Indian startup who are promising and working on different lithium-ion battery technology. So similarly, several other countries also have come up with their own strategic plans for batteries program, battery technology. And this is one example how European countries they have planned a strategic plan for their battery programs. So they are expecting by 2025 onwards, Europe could capture battery market up to 250 billion per year, served by at least 10 to 20 giga factories, battery cells mass production facility. And in 2017, European Commission launched European Battery Alliance, and based on that, the strategic action plan was issued in May 2018, combining targeted measures at European Union level, including the raw materials, primary and secondary battery, raw materials for primary and secondary battery, research, innovation, financing, investment, and standardization, regulatory, trade, and skill development in order to make Europe a global leader in sustainable battery production and use in the context of circular economy, battery circular economy. So these are several strategic approach of India and European countries. Of course, US also has its own strategic plan for battery technology. And when we think this battery technology for electric vehicle, the main drawback is the cost. So far, why people or industries could not develop electric vehicle was main hindrance was the cost of the battery. Of course, performance and material improvement was also a concern, but the cost was major concern when we think for electric vehicles. So that is because you can see here. Here you can see this cathode material. When you see the lithium-ion battery cell component, the cathode material cost of the lithium-ion battery cell materials, if you see, cost of the cathode material is about 50%. When compared to, and the electrode, if you see, it is 65, about 65% to cost for electrode materials itself. So if you focus and work on electrode materials, then maybe we can reduce the cost of the battery technology. This is one strategy that people have adopted in last decade. And because of that, initially in 2008, lithium-ion battery are priced about $1,000 per kilowatt. But presently, and US Advanced Battery Consortium has planned to reduce the battery cost to $150 per 200 kilowatt hour. And because of the presently, this cost of the battery fell about 80% between 2010 and 2016, according to McKinsey estimation. And this from $1,000 to $2,027 per kilowatt is the price down in this in the present decade, especially from 2010 to 16. So therefore, if you want to run a electric vehicle, the family car, that requires about 40 to 50 kilowatt capacity, and if you can bring down this battery pack cost to about $100 per kilowatt hour, then I think most of the present diesel engines can be converted into battery-based electric vehicles. So for that, development of low cost and large scale process and high capacity and energy density cathode materials are very important. And in the last decade, a lot of focus on this thing started with a lithium-ion battery. And next, people now almost we have achieved this developing high capacity and high energy density cathode material for lithium-ion battery by improving the existing electrode material. And now the focus is towards non-lithium based cathode or the battery technology, such as sodium and lithium, sodium, potassium, aluminum, and so on. So anyhow, I will restrict this talk to lithium ion battery only. So when we consider lithium-ion battery, the potential cathode materials are layer structured materials, spinel structure material, aluminum structure material. So you can see the layer structure material is based on lithium cobalt oxide or doped lithium cobalt oxide, because basically lithium cobalt oxide, when battery based on lithium cobalt oxide is working and temperature increases, then the lithium ions in this crystal structure will release when temperature increases behind 50 degree, 50, 60 degree. The release of this oxygen from the structure will lead to catch up fire, because this lithium ion battery uses organic solvent in the as electrolyte in the electrolyte. So to give more stability, people have doped nickel and aluminum for cobalt oxide, then developed layered structured electrode material, cathode material, where Dow Chemicals and Nissan and some other companies are working, developed this kind of layer structured material. And spinel structure material, this is a more stable material, but we face problem of lithium manganese dissolution into electrolyte and John Teller distortion with this lithium manganese oxide. However, this capacity is about 200, 220, around 220. Of course, people have solved this problem by doping again with nickel and cobalt with manganese. So Nissan is using this kind of cathode material for their electric vehicle batteries devices. And aluminum-based material is more safe and stable material, and also cheaper compared to this layered and spinel structure, because cobalt is not involved in this. It is mainly based on lithium iron phosphate and manganese phosphate. And lithium metal silicate with two lithium, it is also expected, but still this material is facing some problem, and they are under development. But lithium, aluminum-based lithium iron phosphate has already got a commercial production and application in commercial battery. So in the year 1994, when John Goodenough invented lithium manganese phosphate and lithium iron phosphate material as an electrode material, and from then it took about 10-15 years to develop this material for the commercial production. So initially this material was facing problem because it is basically insulating ceramic material, and it has a low electronic conductivity and poor lithium ion diffusion, lithium iron phosphate and manganese phosphate. And also lithium metal silicate, here two lithium Li2 metal silicate, iron silicate or manganese silicate. So basically these type of materials are having a poor electronic and ionic conductivity. So in the initial time, people developed a strategy, carbon coating strategy through thermal decomposition and coating carbon on the particle surface, and also reducing particle size to nanometer size range, so that we can have better lithium ion diffusion. But most oftenly problem in carbon coating was kind of carbon clusters or impartial carbon coating or carbon coating on agglomerated particle. All this leads to poor electrode performance. But with the development and the progress in the synthesis technology, we can improve the carbon coating on the electrode particles. So ideally, if we can achieve this kind of carbon coating, then we would get high capacity, high rate, and improved electronic conductivity, short lithium ion diffusion, and other advantage. So I'll just explain the why nanomaterials are useful in energy storage application. Before understanding that, why the importance of nanomaterials in energy storage application, let us understand what are the different stages of uh, the battery during charge and discharge. Here you can see when you during the electrochemical reaction, that is charge and discharge reaction, there will be lithium ion diffusion step, charge transfer reaction occurring, and lithium ion mass movement will be occurring. So when you consider the difference path of lithium ion diffusion, then there is a electrolyte and electrode in between interface. So it is L1 represent the lithium ion diffusion path from electrolyte, that is solution diffusion, and L2 is electrolyte to interface region, where lithium ion from electrolyte diffuse to interface region, and L3 is the solid state reaction, where lithium ions diffuse through the electrode crystal structure. So this diffusion length in the solution electrolyte, it is a fast, but interface little slow, but in the solid state in the electrode, it is the very slow process. Lithium ion diffusion process is very slow. So this is very important to improve the kinetics of lithium ion diffusion. Then the nanomaterials offer a better solution. For example, here you can see, if you take a bulk particles with 1,000 nanometer size, then lithium ion diffusion, lithium from in the electrode, solid state diffusion, lithium from surface to core, it takes about 500 nanometer diffusion path. But if you reduce the length of size of the particles to 100 nanometer, then from surface to core, it takes only 50 nanometer length path. And this will help to enhance about 10 times faster lithium ion diffusion. So if we can do this, then nano size will help us in diffusion length, decreasing diffusion length, and also it supports a mechanical effect and structural destability. So nanomaterials provides some advantages when we use it in energy storage devices as electrode. The nanomaterials enables electrode reaction to occur that cannot take place in bulk materials. For example, reversible lithium interconnection into mesoporous MnO2 without destruction of the rutile structure is possible if you adopt nano size electrode material. And reduction in particle size increases the rate of lithium insertion and removal, as I explained in the previous slide. The electron transport within the particle is also enhanced. A high surface area permits high contact area with the electrolyte, and hence high lithium ion flux across this interface. For very small particles, the chemical potential of lithium ions and electron may be modified, resulting in change of the electrode potential. That means the electrode potential may be different for bulk particles and nanoparticles. The range of composition over which solid solution exists is often more extensive for nanoparticles, and strain associated with the intercalation is often better accommodated. So this is being proved with many the solid solution obtained or doping obtained for electrode material, lithium cobalt oxide and lithium manganese spinel structure. So also we also have tried this kind of composition to improve the performance. Of course, nanomaterials have some disadvantages, difficult, such as difficult to synthesize and control the dimension. So recently, we have almost solved this problem, and there is a lot of progress in synthesis procedure for nano material electrodes, and also we can finally control their morphology and size. And high electrolyte electrode surface area may lead to more significant side reactions with the electrolyte, and more difficult to maintain interparticular contact. So this is one disadvantages, and people are working to solve this one. And the energy density of nanopowder is generally less than bulk particles of the same material. The volume of electrode increases for the same mass of the material, thus reducing the volumetric energy density. Because of the less powder density, the volumetric energy density will be reduced. That is another disadvantage with nanomaterials. But still, we have a lot of advantage with the nanomaterials as electrode material, and people have exploited this advantage, and now many nanostructured material are being used in lithium-ion battery electrode. So now I will present a supercritical hydrothermal route process for synthesis and processing of lithium-ion battery electrode materials. So before before going to synthesize the lithium-ion battery by supercritical fluid process, let us understand what is supercritical fluid process. It is nothing. It is here you can see a brother volcano at New Zealand, under the beneath of the sea. You can see about a 5-meter tall chimney where ambient seawater mixes with volcano vent. And when volcano vent mixes with ambient seawater, there you can see formation of mineral laden, a black smoke, where hot fluid mixes with ambient seawater. It will induce the supercritical condition for seawater, where the temperature will be about 374 degree and pressure will be about 22 megapascal, which is the critical temperature and pressure for supercritical water. Beyond that, the water becomes fluid. Under this condition, mineral formation occurs, and this situation or this condition was simulated in lab, and we developed a supercritical fluid process. So advantage of supercritical fluid process, we can, when in the normal case, the density of water is around 1, but if you decrease the density, means if you increase the temperature beyond critical temperature, the density will decrease. And also with increasing pressure and temperature, we can see density of the water will decrease. Similarly, dielectric constant of water normal condition is about 78, but with increasing pressure and increasing temperature, dielectric constant comes less than 10, so which is equivalent to organic solvent. So under this supercritical condition, the water forms homogeneous mixture with organic solvent. So this kind of reaction media provides us the unique reaction media to conduct organic and inorganic hybrid reactions, and making nanomaterials coated with carbon, conductive carbon, or coated with some organic modifiers or polymers. So with this supercritical fluid as a reaction media, we can achieve high diffusivity, high reaction rate, high solvating power, and homogeneous phase with gas and organic compounds when we try to synthesize nanomaterials. Hence, we utilize this technique and developed for energy material synthesis. Under the supercritical hydrothermal reaction, when you take normally you take a metal salt, and after increasing temperature under subcritical or supercritical condition, that is below 370 degree, 74 degree, or above 370 degree, the reaction equilibria shift towards formation of first hydroxides, from metal salts to hydroxide, then hydroxide to oxides. This is the mechanism. And in situ surface modification is possible under supercritical condition. When you try to do in situ surface modification at using water and low temperature or any other method, then most unlikely to get homogeneous phase, because organic phase and water phase, they don't visible properly. But under supercritical fluid condition, The organic assisted supercritical hydrothermal synthesis proves that formation of homogeneous uh, reaction medium with the organic ligands. So this way we can coat this metal oxide surface with organic ligand or some carbon containing precursor, then decompose it in order to deposit carbon or polymer, and other coating is possible under this condition. So now I will just show a few examples, case studies of synthesis of lithium iron phosphate, manganese phosphate, and lithium iron silicate, and some other graphene, and some other example. This is one under supercritical fluid or solvothermal process. So this is one example of synthesis of lithium iron phosphate, and recently one company in Korea, Hanwha Chemicals, they adopted this supercritical fluid process for production of electrode materials, especially in ton level production. They have large scale production they have started, and this is the conditions and the procedure for making lithium iron phosphate. You can see metal salts, iron chloride or other lithium acetyl acetonate along with phosphoric acid and ethanol was taken, and adjusted pH to basic. Then metal to allylamine, which is surfactant to control the size and morphology of nanoparticle, was used in 1:50 ratio. Then heated from 250 to 400 degrees centigrade for 4 to 10 minutes under 38 megapascal pressure. Then we obtained surface capped surface modified lithium metal phosphates, and we could control morphology like nanoparticles, nanoplates, nanorods, and nanosheets. So here you can see lithium iron phosphate synthesized using allylamine and without allylamine. Without allylamine, particle size were 70 to 100 nanometer, but with allylamine, particle size were controlled around 10 to 30 nanometer. So it also allylamine acts as a capping agent and reducing agent, and also pure lithium iron phosphate was obtained. So we can systematically control size and morphology of lithium iron phosphate, controlling the reaction time and reaction temperature. From plate-like to rod-like morphology, we could obtain by controlling reaction time from 4 minutes to 10 minutes. Similarly, from 280 degrees centigrade to 400 degree, we can control the morphology, rod, plate, rod-like and plate-like morphology. So then after fabrication of electrode, and we studied the charge discharge performance for lithium iron phosphate, and it shows about 90% theoretical capacity was achieved, and it shows very good cyclic performance and high rate capability up to 10C. So similarly, lithium manganese phosphate electrode material was developed, and that was confirmed crystal structure, pure crystal structure, and you can see the manganese phosphate cathode material also gives about 150 capacity at a different rate. So lithium cobalt oxide phosphate was developed with a plate-like morphology, and for this kind of olivine material, people expect a plate-like morphology because we have only two-dimensional lithium diffusion path in this crystal structure. And this also shows considerably good capacity for lithium charge discharge capacity, where this electrode material is mixed with PDOT and carbon nanotube to improve the conductivity. So after realizing the lithium iron phosphate under supercritical fluid condition, we try to develop a lithium 2 metal silicate, which is 2 lithium capacity material. Because of this, from 150 160 range, we can realize 330 milliampere capacity electrode material, especially cathode material. So because this lithium metal silicate has a 330 milliampere per gram capacity, theoretical capacity. However, due to amorphization and structural destability, this material gives only one electron capacity. So one lithium capacity. Then we adopted a two-dimensional nanosheet structure strategy, and we could demonstrate two lithium capacity. And now still we need to improve the cyclability of this material, and we are trying to work on this material to make it more stable. So here you can see similar synthesis condition where metal salts with ethanol and water mixture. We synthesize this material at 400 to 490 degrees centigrade within 4 to 10 minutes at 38 megapascal. We could get a lithium 2 iron silicate and lithium 2 manganese silicate material. Here you can see lithium 2 iron silicate in a sheet-like structure, nano two-dimensional nano sheet structure, and also similarly lithium manganese silicate also we obtained two-dimensional nanosheet structure. And similarly, we could make a lithium nickel silicate, lithium cobalt silicate, and some other material. So here you can see lithium iron silicate and manganese silicate as a highly crystalline material, and it has a orthorhombic structure with PM2 space group. So after confirming the crystal structure and all, then we measured thickness of the sheet, which is about 1 to 4 nanometer. You can see that means they are nano sheet with thin lithium metal silicate crystal slab, and measured the charge discharge profile, and we could obtain the full 2 lithium capacity for this lithium iron silicate and lithium manganese silicate. So this shows that adapting the two-dimensional strategy, we could make a lithium iron silicate and manganese silicate full 2 lithium capacity. And now the problem we are facing is cyclability. So we are working on to improve the cyclability of cyclic performance of this material. So we are trying to use a different strategy for making this material more stable. So next, two-dimensional materials I am showing with some nano ceramics and also carbon-based materials. So we know that two-dimensional materials offer unique advantages. When you consider graphene as a two-dimensional material, it has a unique advantage of high Young's modulus, high fracture strength, and mobility of charge carriers is more than 2 lakhs, and thermal conductivity is very high with a high specific surface area. Basically, two-dimensional materials can be separated from their bulk counterpart. And for example, for graphene, it can be separated from graphite. Layered graphite structures can be demantled and are exfoliated to make graphene. Directly, we can synthesize graphene. So if it is a 3-dimension, it is a graphite. A 2-dimension, then it is a graphene sheet. If this graphene sheet is rolled, then it forms 1-dimensional carbon nanotube, and the same sheet is folded, then it forms a 0-dimension fullerenes. So similarly, there are some other 2-dimensional ceramic oxide nanosheets. You can see here manganese oxide, titanium oxide, calcium niobium oxide, cesium oxide. So some of manganese oxide and titanium oxides can be used as a electrode material. Similarly, there are some sulfide materials, and the sulfide materials, 2-dimensional nanostructures can be exploited for application of battery materials. For example, in this work, we present molybdenum disulfide and graphene as a heterostructure to make their utilize of electrode material. So here one example, I present molybdenum disulfide RGB heterostructure by supercritical fluid method, where we took a molybdenum, sodium molybdate with the thiourea and mixed with graphene oxide. And in a 1-part synthesis, we could get a molybdenum disulfide RGO nanocomposite, heterostructure nanocomposite. And here you can see crystal structure shows the molybdenum disulfide pure molybdenum disulfide without any impurities, and increasing RGO amount will reduce the size of the molybdenum disulfide sheet, because it will drop the molybdenum disulfide because of the crystal size will reduce. So we confirm the formation of molybdenum disulfide with different characterization techniques using FTIR and other techniques. So this is FTIR result you can see, and morphology of molybdenum disulfide nanostructure. You can see nanosheet, hierarchically organized nanosheet structure. You can see which is synthesized at 15 minutes and 30 minutes under supercritical fluid process. Then we confirm the purity of molybdenum disulfide by measuring EDAX, and it shows only molybdenum disulfide without any impurities. This molybdenum disulfide we mixed with RGO and synthesized one part molybdenum disulfide and RGO nanocomposite. You can see morphology difference, only molybdenum disulfide and RGO and molybdenum disulfide here. So this is TEM image of molybdenum disulfide, and TEM image of graphene and molybdenum disulfide heterostructure. You can see the graphene molybdenum disulfide is coated on the graphene sheet. So this shows the charge discharge performance. The molybdenum disulfide RGO nanocomposite shows up to 80 milliampere per gram capacity. So next we prepared bismuth metal oxide and bismuth molybdate RGO nanocomposite using the supercritical fluid process. And here you can see we utilized water and ethylene glycol hydrothermal synthesis we made, and synthesized bismuth, molybdenum RGO, molybdenum oxide and RGO nanocomposite under this condition. So here you can see the crystal structure of bismuth molybdate and RGO nanocomposite, and it shows a rhombohedral crystal rhombohedral structure with a crystallite size about 45 nanometer. And the TGDTA shows only presence of 2.6 weight% of RGO in this nanocomposite. And FTIR shows formation of presence of RGO, means carbon on the surface, and also bonding between molybdenum disulfide. So here that ACM and TM images shows the two-dimensional plate-like morphology, plate on sheet kind of morphology we can see here. In the background there is a graphene sheet, and plates, molybdenum disulfide plates are being coated on the RGO sheet. So this is just mechanism, formation of mechanism. When in the beginning, on graphene oxide sheet, the bismuth oxide nuclei formation occurs with increasing this supersaturation. Then growth of bismuth molybdate microspheres occurs due to high surface area. Then it leads to, with increasing time, reaction time, this microspheres forms plate-like structure with oriented growth and asphalt coarsening effect. So this shows electrochemical studies for bismuth molybdate and graphene hybrid structure. So we could get very good capacity about at 0.1C rate up to 750 milliampere per gram in the first cycle, and finally it was stabilized at 400 to 500 milliampere per gram capacity. So the first cycle was irreversible, but after first cycle we could get a reversible reaction of lithium bismuth molybdate, lithium bismuth molybdate. So next, we prepared bismuth molybdate RGO composite using a supercritical fluid condition. Similarly, condition what I explained for lithium iron phosphate and silicate, and we studied the crystal structure and a similar crystal structure with even a smaller crystallite size compared to hydrothermal. We could get even smaller crystallite size, about 20 nanometer crystallite size lithium bismuth molybdate crystals were obtained. And here you can see the hierarchical heterostructure arrangement. Bismuth molybdate sheets are coated on graphene sheet, RGO sheet. So similarly, we studied surface functionality and confirmed the presence of a different functional group on the surface. And Raman spectroscopy shows presence of graphene sheet and the presence of graphene. That means we confirm the formation of heterostructure. And XPS also shows presence of bismuth in +3 oxidation state and molybdenum in +6 oxidation state. So, along with the presence of RGO, which is confirmed by presence of carbon peaks. So, you can see here the charge-discharge reaction. This bismuth molybdate compared to hydrothermal reaction sample, the supercritical fluid process sample shows increased, enhanced capacity, that is up to 1400. So pure bismuth oxide shows only 900, and final stable after second cycle about 300. But bismuth oxide and RGO composite shows increased capacity, especially with the nano composite with RGO at 12%. You can see up to 600 capacity, 2 times capacity was improved when compared to pure bismuth oxide. So similarly, we prepared bismuth vanadate RGO nanocomposite in a similar reaction, and this is the crystal structure of bismuth vanadium oxide, rhombohedral structure, and crystallite size is about 14 nanometer. You can see the crystal neat, pure crystal face of bismuth vanadium oxide and RGO composite. We used RGO 6% and 12% RGO. So sheet-like morphology was obtained, which was confirmed hierarchical sheet-like morphology that was confirmed under ACM, and TEM images shows the RGO sheet, I mean bismuth tungstite is coated on the RGO sheet. So again, Raman confirms the presence of RGO, that is 6 to 12% RGO. Whatever we used is completely wrapping bismuth vanadate, and pure phase of bismuth 3+ and tungsten 6+, along with the presence of RGO was confirmed by XPS measurement without any other impurities. And surface functionality was studied again with FTIR and confirmed the presence of surface carbon-carbon bond and carbon-oxygen and other surface functional groups. So here you can see bismuth vanadate shows the capacity up to 700, pure bismuth vanadate, and with RGO we can see increased capacity. So this shows the bismuth vanadate formed under supercritical fluid process also shows electrochemically active compared to pure material, but along with the increased RGO concentration, then capacity was further increased. So similarly, bismuth vanadate, two paper, bismuth molybdenum oxide and RGO composite was published, and now bismuth vanadate and bismuth tungstate under submission. So here bismuth vanadate shows micro formation of microspheres under supercritical condition, where these microspheres convert into nano branches like this, and when mixed with RGO, then it forms heterostructure with RGO. So we could obtain the pure bismuth vanadate nano brushes, and you can see the monoclinic structure of bismuth vanadate, which matches with JCPDS 140688 plano bisphonate phase, and the crystallite size is about 30 nanometer. And here you can see nano branches coated on graphene RGO sheet. So confirmed similar conformation for surface valency by measuring XPS, bismuth triples, and vanadium using 5+ oxidation state. And you can see here bismuth vanadate has shown capacity up to 800 milliampere per gram with, for a different RGO component. Of course, with increasing, this is a pure bismuth vanadate, but with increasing bismuth vanadate RGO composite, adding RGO composite, the capacity after second, third cycle become more stable. Around for 24 percent RGO in the mixture, capacity is about 500. Okay, so this is another important thing what I would like to mention here. Recently, there is a lot of progress in making graphene and other metal oxide and metal sulfides nano composite to increase the capacity of electrode materials, as anode materials. This is one example reported in 2011 by Chang et al. Molybdenum disulfide and graphene composite, and it shows the charge storage capacity about 1571 milliampere per gram. After 100 cycles, 1187 milliampere per gram was achieved. And in our case, molybdenum disulfide up to 800 milliampere per capacity we could achieve. And there is still scope for improving this capacity when we compare to this report. And similarly, iron oxide and RGO composite was reported with first discharge capacity up to 1690 milliampere per gram. After 50 cycle, it is stable around 1027 milliampere per gram. So similarly, tin oxide and RGO, nitrogen doped RGO was also reported with a high capacity up to 1865. After 500 cycle, it still gives around 1000 milliampere per capacity. So this type of composite, metal oxide, metal sulfide composite RGO shows very good capacity, and this shows the progress in anode materials, especially when used with graphene nanocomposite, graphene-based nanocomposite for electrode material, anode material. So this is another example of cobalt oxide graphene composite reported by Yang et al. So this shows there is a lot of progress with the graphene-based nanocomposite for anode material with the different metal oxides. So among all these things, I think tin oxide, nitrogen doped RGO composite shows a better capacity, stable capacity as a electrode material. So graphene anode for sodium-ion battery also being developed recently, and sodium as a sodium battery, magnesium battery. So there are a lot of efforts being made to develop alternative battery to lithium-ion battery technology. So sodium, magnesium, aluminum, and other battery technology are presently for in the focus for future next generation battery technology. As there is a concern about the lithium mineral sources being exploited, and it may not be available after 2050. So people are trying to develop a different battery technology based on sodium, magnesium, aluminum ion, and so on. So with this, I'll summarize the challenges in energy and the sustainable development demands for development of renewable energy technology, which needs advanced materials at low cost with efficient storage technologies. High capacity and high energy density cathode anode materials have been developed and tested with offset measurement in lithium ion battery. And some of these cathode materials are already commercially manufactured. And lithium ion battery electrode materials development is a key to technology implementation in electric vehicles. And considering the cost and other things, lithium ion battery mostly presently in this decade lithium ion battery technology reaches its maximum in the commercial electric vehicle applications with a reasonable cost. But considering the future of lithium sources, then alternative next generation battery technology is also being developed, and sodium ion battery, magnesium ion battery, and aluminum battery, so on, are being focused along with the lithium sulfur battery. So whatever the technology, the low cost and large scale production process development is still possible for existing and new materials. With this, I would like to thank organizer for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, sir. It was a wonderful lecture. I think we should open for question and answer session now. If anybody has any question, they can unmute and ask. Sir, there are some questions in the chat box. There is a question from Suraj.
Yeah.
In disadvantages of nanomaterial slides, you said now we have overcome the difficulties in synthesis of nanomaterials. Can you please give some inputs on this synthesis approach technique? Does this synthesis method used is now being used at commercial level or still at laboratory level?
So, for example, as I mentioned, supercritical fluid process for lithium iron phosphate production, it is in commercial level. I already mentioned that Hanwha Chemicals in Korea, they have set up a supercritical fluid process based plant. And similarly, improvement in production like flame spray pyrolysis and sol gel method and some other process, there is an improvement in preparation of electrode materials. So maybe because of this, presently most of the problems with the production or synthesis of nanomaterials are solved as of now. We have available technologies for synthesizing nanomaterials compared to last decade.
Okay. There is one more question, sir. It is from Suraj. He is asking which software and tools can be useful for drawing such effective plots?
We are using Origin software. So I think there are different software, but Origin is also one of the good software for this purpose.
Okay. There is one more question from Vinod Kumar. What are all the latest nanomaterials available to make battery manufacturing, sir, in India?
In India, I think lithium manganese oxide, spinal structure, and doped lithium manganese structure. Because you people may be remembering in last 3-4 years before, ISRO has developed some lithium manganese based material, and mainly they developed this material for space application, and BHEL has taken this for production. So similarly, lithium iron phosphate, but most of the time, so far in India, we are not manufacturing any electrode materials. Still, we are relying on importing electrode materials from China and other countries. So recently, BHEL has made its efforts, and also some companies in Hyderabad and Chennai, and also Tata Chemicals, they are also have come forward. They have government is offering support and incentives, as I mentioned in the beginning, for manufacturing and production of electrode materials.
I hope this has answered your question, Vinod Kumar. If there are any other questions, you can unmute and ask. Any questions? There is one more question from Harish P. Sir, if we reuse the nanoparticles, what about it working efficiency? Does it same as previous?
Sorry, repeat me question again. If we reuse the nanoparticle, what about it working efficiency? Is it same? See, when we reuse the electrode material itself, whether it is a nano or bulk, the crystal structure of this material is very important when we try to reuse. So, if crystal structure of nanoparticles are not changed, then nanoparticles can be again reused. And while reusing and try to regenerate, then we should be careful about their phase and crystal structure, and then definitely we can reuse like bulk material.
Okay. Any other question? I think there are no more questions, sir. I think we should end the session here. I thank you, Dr. Dinesh Rangappa, sir, for giving such a wonderful lecture at our FDP. And I must also mention that Dinesh Rangappa, sir, has helped me in getting the getting the resource persons. Many of the resource persons are referred by Dinesh Rangappa, sir. He has always been of help when we are doing such kind of programs. I thank you very much for helping me out in identifying some of the resource person and being here to deliver a lecture. And I want to announce that Dinesh Rangappa sir is going to be the guest of honor in today's valedictory function. So we will see him again in the afternoon. So I will end this session here. So thank you all the participants. This was our last technical session, and I will meet you at the valedictory function that will be at 3:30 p.m.
Thank you, Professor Pawan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, what about the test?
See, there are so many requests from the participants. It is getting difficult for me to decide when to take it. So autocratically, I will decide the time, and everyone has to cooperate. I will consider everybody's request, and autocratically, I will decide the time, and everyone has to cooperate with it. Anyhow, I am giving you the question bank, so it won't be very difficult
Sir,
thing to you.
it will be today only, na?
Yeah, I think it will be today because I will be posting the question bank now, and in evening, maybe at 7:30, we will have the test. Okay, I will announce it in the group.
Okay, that will be.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
will. Yeah, I will announce it in the group. So thank you. Thank you, Dinesh sir. I'll see you in the afternoon.
Yeah. Thank you. See you.
Thank you.
Thank you.